The playoff bracket is still in flux, but the Thunder are for sure going to be the number one seed in the West and the best record overall. What should the Thunder be rooting for this weekend? What are the biggest storylines to watch for in the postseason and more? Coming up on today's show.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. Subscribe for free across all podcasting platforms so you never miss an episode. I'm Rylan Stiles, host of the show, and beat writer for Thunder on SI at Rylan_Stiles on Twitter. Joining us today is Nick Crain, media luminary at Crain NBA, uncontested podcast, Thunder on SI, Draft Digest. Nick, we've almost made it to the playoffs. Sunday is the final regular season day across the NBA. The Thunder play Utah tonight and play New Orleans on Sunday. Two inconsequential games for the Thunder. They're not even playing anyone tonight against Utah, and it will likely follow suit against the Pelicans on Sunday. How you feeling now that the regular season is behind us?
I'm excited for some, like you said, consequential basketball. Like, really, at the All-Star break, there wasn't a ton to play for at that point. Then they secured the number one seed in the West, and we talked about, you and I, a couple weeks ago, should they really push for the best record in the NBA? Is the likelihood of that mattering even that high? They did it anyways by a few games. And now we're finally to the point, like you mentioned, these last two games literally have no meaning, which is hence why the guys playing are the guys playing. But on the flip side of that, we are just days away, Rylan, more like a week away from real consequential basketball, playoff basketball, and that's when it all changes.
A week away for the Thunder and playing big-time games because their first game of the playoffs will be next Sunday. But only days away, you were right, from consequential games around the NBA, which have ripple effects. Great Grateful Dead song, Ripple, by the way, for the Oklahoma City Thunder with the NBA play-in tournament, which still isn't set yet. I mean, what a luxury the Eastern Conference has, where it's all kind of set in place for you, and you can start previewing the play-in tournament. You can start thinking ahead to potential matchups. The Western Conference is in chaos, Nick. There's a billion different scenarios. Teams can fly up and down the standings with only 2 games left. Ultimately, the 9 and 10 is going to be either, in some order, the 9-10 is going to be Dallas, Sacramento. It's just a matter of where the game gets played at, which arena. However, 7 and 8, which is the 2 other play-in teams, it can be one of, 2 of, you would have to say, because one goes to 7, one goes to 8, 2 of Denver, the Clippers, the Warriors, the Grizzlies, the Timberwolves. If we froze the standings today, it would be Dallas Kings, and then it would be Grizzlies, Timberwolves. What should the Thunder be rooting for in these next couple of days to unfold?
There's a couple ways you can answer that question. I think the most insane statistic that I've seen as we look across this landscape of scenarios is the fact that the Clippers and the Nuggets could finish as high as 3 or as low as 8 over the span of 2 games. Like these next 72 hours, 3 versus 8. I think mathematically, obviously the Kings and the Mavs are, I wouldn't say likely first round opponents, but could be. Like if it's them 2 or the field, they're a good chunk of what it could be. Just given one of those 2 teams will advance to the game that dictates who's the 8 seed. I think best case scenario, what you're rooting for is it doesn't matter what happens these next 3 days. You just hope one of those 2 teams somehow gets a little hot in the play-in, and then you get to see them first round. There's also an element of the draft that's maybe not being talked about enough. If the Clippers do fall to 7 or 8 and miss the playoffs outright, like that's a lottery pick. I think that's a gamble. If you had the almighty hands that can move the chess pieces over the next 72 hours, it's a double-edged sword. You'd like the Clippers to fall in the lottery, but the Clippers may not be the team you'd love to see first round relative to some of the others. So that's a slippery slope. But I think of the teams that are still there, I just keep circling the Grizzlies as the team that feels unstable in some ways, and they've had some unfortunate injuries of late, but just like the matchup, and they're going to rely on a 7-4 rookie that you can probably play off the floor. Like that just seems like a good matchup of that bunch of teams that are kind of consolidated there.
Yeah, so I would agree. I think that you're really hoping that the bracket, freezes where it's at right now, because where it's at right now would have the elements of the play-in tournament where you're going to see Kings Mavericks, kind of an irrelevant game, and then Grizzlies Timberwolves. I think that the Timberwolves would beat the Grizzlies and go play the Rockets, and then the Grizzlies would be left over for the Mavericks or Kings to decide who plays the 8th seed. Grizzlies win that game. I think that the Grizzlies are the easiest potential first-round opponent for the Thunder, sans Sacramento, sans Dallas. Like, of the realistic 7-8s, Memphis is the team that is the easiest path for OKC. And then if you freeze it how it is right now, your second-round matchup is either Denver or the Clippers. I mean, and so like with that going on, Denver has the best player in the world, but you feel really shaky about the rotation in a 7-game series. They just fired their coach. What does that mean?
Yeah.
They're kind of in a disarray point. And then the Clippers would be a very fun series, but it's better than the alternative of, look, in the second round, you're going to play a very tough team. So there's no like getting an easy path in the second round, but it's easier than playing a team like the Lakers, who has all the dimensions to match up very well with Oklahoma City. So I think that the Thunder should hope that on Sunday at about 6 o'clock, when all these games end, that this should be the exact bracket that they walk into.
Yeah, I think the biggest maybe hope is this is a little bit of recency bias, but I think there's some validity in it. Is you hope the Lakers win one of their last 2 and they get that 3rd seed. That's a tough second round opponent if they fall to 4 or 5.
And the Lakers are playing a Rockets team that's sitting everyone, so they should be able to get a win tonight in Houston. We'll see how that game actually ends up going. That would go a long way in determining that. And it is a little bit of recency bias in the sense of we just saw them match up, but I think that what we saw is kind of what we've expected since the trade deadline. And we're going to talk about how the Lakers are a unique matchup for the Thunder coming up. But first, I want to say right now, my good friends over at DoorDash, go check out DoorDash today, because NBA fans, get ready. When they swish, you save thanks to Dash Pass. Every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When a player scores 50 or more, boom, you're able to get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. So no matter if you are staying up too late to watch some of these games unfold, and then you don't feel like making your lunch tomorrow, kind of a chilled day at home, order in your lunch from DoorDash and use Dash Pass by signing up today for Dash Pass and be ready to save when any player drops 50 or more points. Dash Pass members can get 50% off and order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms and conditions apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more today. Go check out DoorDash and Dash Pass for NBA50 as the promo code. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I'm Rylan Stiles here with Nick Crain, media luminary, the great at Crain NBA, uncontested podcast, Thunder NSI, etc., etc. Forbes, everything. That's why he's a media luminary. Nick, when you look at this Lakers matchup, that's kind of what's fresh in everybody's mind. It happened this week, but I think that it really kind of swats in the face of recency bias, only because it's what we thought was going to happen at the trade deadline. The Lakers went and got Luka. There are some elements of the Lakers where the Thunder can try to benefit, but they ultimately have all these playmakers to try to handle the Thunder's historically great perimeter defense. They have Luka, who is just a matchup nightmare for any team in the NBA, which is unbelievable that that Dallas Mavericks let that walk out of their building for free. But still, I mean, they have the recipe and the formula to pull off an upset of the number 1 overall seed because of the Luka dynamic. If you saw Sunday, just like you saw against that Dallas series, the Thunder are going to concede corner threes. Luka's the best at generating open corner threes, on top of the Thunder willing to concede some of them. And if Gabe Vincent and Dorian Finney-Smith each go 4 for 8 like they did Sunday, the Thunder are going to be in a world of hurt. If that shooting at all comes down to a more level playing field, then it will be a very, very, very competitive series, a very fun series, and it will go the distance. And at that point, if you get to a 7-game series, the 7th game is in nature a 1-game sample size, and anything can happen. Whether these two teams are as talented as these two teams are, so we thought it'd be a 6-7 game series at the trade deadline. Still feel that way after this week. What do you think, though, after seeing them go up against one another about this potential matchup?
It's such an interesting series in the sense that the Thunder has this two-headed center lineup that they can throw out there. And I think that is going to be the biggest swing, because the Lakers, this is not breaking news, they lack the center depth. Jackson Hayes is basically it. If you can find ways to, this is the playoffs. This is what it is. You can play your style and force the other team to have to play your style and adapt to you. You generally have pretty good luck. So if the Isaiah Hartenstein, Chet Holmgren double big lineup can have success early in that series and dictate the way that series is going to be played, I think you have a lot of success. That wasn't necessarily the case for a lot of the minutes we saw over the past 2 games against the Lakers. They were able to dominate the game with their wings and play a more perimeter-oriented game. Throw lobs to Jackson Hayes whenever he's open. Otherwise, we're going to shoot lights out from the perimeter. That's a style the Lakers probably have a bit of an edge with. So I think it all comes down to which team can dictate, hey, we're going to play our basketball in this series. That's going to be the team that jumps out to the lead, may not win it, but jumps out to the lead early on for sure.
I would agree. I think that the early punches will be interesting. I think that when they deploy the double big stuff will be interesting. You're going to do it, but do you need to do it at the start of the game? Do you want to set the tone at the start of the game with just having that Kaysen in there as a tone-setting defender, which is what I would do? And then the Luka problem. And the Luka problem would exist no matter where he plays, and he happens to play now in Los Angeles with a couple other good ball handlers, playmakers, and scorers. Is there a world where you just want to play Luka straight up and say, Lou, you got to go fight over every screen. You've got to stay attached to Luka. And if he drops 60 on Lou Dort, okay. But we're not going to oversend help. We're not going to overload on Luka and let him pick us apart with his passing. And if you can find a way to score 60 points a night and will your team to 4 wins out of 7 games, you tip your cap and you kind of move on with the equation. Like, where are you at on the Luka problem of any team at all now, talking not just about the Thunder, trying to defend Luka?
It's easy to sit here and say, oh, every team has a dominant scorer playmaker that's in the playoffs. I think you would agree with me, Rylan. We're not talking about dominant. We're talking about generational with a guy like Luka. Not that he is as accomplished as the names I'm about to say. Not that he has the accolades. Not that he'll ever have the accolades. Like winning is hard to do. But the same way teams had to game plan for the Kobes and the LeBrons and those kind of guys, like Luka's in that same air. Like, his playoff numbers are absurd. Like, last season's Mavs, they played a heck of a lot better than they really were. There's no question. But even 2 years prior, when they went to the Western Conference Finals, you'd know better than I, Riley. You followed that team more closely than I did. That team was not good at all, besides Luka Doncic.
Dwight Powell was the starting center on that team.
He has this ability to take it to a new gear in the playoffs. So, like 29 other coaches and staffs in the league, Rylan, I don't have an answer to what you do with Luka Doncic in the playoffs. I think you try to control as many variables as you can to alleviate what happens in a nightmare scenario that Luka's unstoppable. But there's not a lot you can do otherwise about Luka directly. That's a cop-out answer, but that's how I really feel.
No, that's fair. I think that it just goes, like, talking about this playoff bracket, it just goes to show how unbalanced the league is in terms of the conferences. Yeah. The Thunder could have to get through like Ant and the Timberwolves, who just went to the conference finals last year, round one, the best player in the world in Jokic, round two, and then Luka Doncic in the Western Conference Finals. Whereas you look at the East and it's like, oh well, we had to beat the Hawks. Had to really get up and play the Pacers, and now we're here. It's like, dude,
the 8th seed in the West is 47-33. That's there's 3 teams in that record. That's the 8th seed Timberwolves 47-33. In the East, they would be pushing for the 4 seed with home court advantage in the first round.
It's just so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. And I don't know how the league fixes it, but it's a good gig if you can get it out East. I mean, what a fun time for Cleveland and Boston right now, to not have to worry about really anything during here previewing the playoffs. But for the Thunder, they do have the best record overall, so they have a home court advantage throughout the playoffs, including the finals, should the Cavs make it. There's really whenever that only really come into play because they would already have the record against the Boston and them. But when you look at this Thunder postseason, we're going to do another pod, hopefully, next week, previewing it once we know a lot more. But what's just your gut feeling now? Because let's just say we've seen the whole season, because I don't think that they're going to play anyone against New Orleans if they're not playing anybody against Utah. So you've seen this whole season. And all season long, we've been very big picture about expectation level because we get it. We get that in order for the Thunder to achieve what they want to achieve, it's going to take guys like J-Dub to step up in their second ever playoff run. And that's an anomaly. Like the all-time great list that you just mentioned, comparing that all-time great list to Luka Doncic, how many of those guys got it right in their second ever playoff run? Oh, yeah. None. I mean, look how long it took even the likes of LeBron and even the likes of the greatest of all time to burst through. So, I mean, just take the GOAT debate. Whatever side you fall on, Michael and LeBron, they weren't ready. They weren't good enough in their second ever playoff run to go win a championship.
Yeah.
So it is a lot to ask of Jalen Williams, of Chet Holmgren off of a hip fracture, etc., to put it all together in their second ever playoff run. However, they're that good. Like, they're that good that they could be able to be the anomaly because they're led by SGA, who's proven to be ready in the postseason. You look at Shai's postseason, there's only really one blip, I would say, on his postseason resume, or a blemish. It would be in the bubble, where he wasn't quite good enough in the bubble with that 3-guard lineup. But as a rookie, he was a star in his role as a rookie in that playoff series against Golden State. Last year, he was excellent in the postseason. So, like, you feel really good about SGA in the playoffs. Where are you at on expectation level of balancing that? Like, yes, this team is historic. This team is good enough. And if you told me today, hey, I'm from the future and the Thunder won the championship, it would not sound crazy at all to me. But also, man, if they did that, it would be an anomaly. So I still struggle with if we're admitting on the front end that for the Thunder to accomplish all their goals, it would kind of spit in the face of NBA history. Then where's the bar at for what you would consider a success, I guess would be the question.
A lot of great points. Yeah, if someone came from the future and said that they won a title, I would not be shocked. I also wouldn't be shocked if they lost in the second round with the bad matchup. You make great points with being J-Dub's second playoff. Shai's second playoff is the number one option. Like, there's levels to this stuff. I would say a successful season would be making it to the Western Conference Finals. I think that a disappointing season would be anything less. I wouldn't say it's a failure, anything less. But you're right. If any team's going to break the anomaly, it's probably the team that broke anomalies all season, and that is the Thunder. It doesn't guarantee anything in the playoffs, but they have the recipe, they have the ingredients. Now it's just time to make the dish.
And I think that it's as simple as letting the bracket tell you, because even with all the qualifiers I just gave, if they avoid the Lakers in round 2, then the Thunder should be in the Western Conference Finals. Like, they should get there. Even with as young as they are, even with all the other history stuff, they should get there. Now, my thing is, if they lost to the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals and they just ran into a buzzsaw of Luka and LeBron and Reeves, and Luka was just sensational, and his number 2 guys and his supporting cast was better than Shai's number 2 guys and his supporting cast, like, is that just an outright failure? Because we've seen Dorian
No.
Finney-Smith, we've seen Gabe Vincent, we've seen Luka's supporting cast do it in big moments. We haven't seen that for Shai's supporting cast yet.
No.
We've seen LeBron have historic playoff moments. The list is too large to name. We haven't seen that from Chet and J-Dub, and they're being compared to the best player of all time or the second best player of all time, whatever debate you want to fall on there. And then Austin Reeves is in the mix too, where like he fits that mold of like a young guy who hasn't quite done it yet, and we'll kind of see how he handles a 2-month-long playoff run at that point to get to the conference finals and to see where things level off at. But to me, so long as the Lakers win one more game and they're on the other side of the bracket, then the expectation level should be the West Finals. I would still pick the Thunder against the Lakers in Game 7, but if it got to a Game 6 or Game 7 and the Lakers won the series, then they have Luka, they have LeBron, and you kind of figure things out later at that point, or just tip your cap to how great that they are for a team constructed this way. But I think that the Thunder will make the NBA Finals. It's just that I think if they don't, you can't just say, well, they were the best team in the NBA record-wise, so they should have done it. There would be some reasoning why they didn't do it, but I'm going to pick the Thunder to make the NBA Finals, and it'll be very easy to pick them to go to the West Finals if the Thunder do not see the Lakers in round 2, which I don't think that they will. I think that the Lakers will get that number 3 seed in the West. And so coming up, let's talk about those biggest storylines for the postseason. But first, I want to say right now, but our good friends over at Game Time, go check out Game Time today, because there's nothing like the energy of a live game. Whether you're catching a last-minute MLB showdown or soaking in the excitement of an NBA playoff matchup, finding great seats at a great price, it's used to be a challenge, but now it's not, because Game Time is there for you. Game Time makes scoring last-minute tickets easier than ever. Prices actually drop as the event gets closer. There's all-in pricing, so you see the total cost up front, no surprises at checkout. Check them out today at Game Time by taking the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Go download the Game Time app, create your account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Again, code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. You're going to love the fact that you have that peace of mind to see the view from your seat before you buy, with no surprise fees at checkouts, by downloading Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed at Game Time. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Joining us today is Nick Crain, Uncontested Podcast, Forbes, Thunder NSI, and Draft Digest, and everywhere else in the world. You can really just play the game Where's Carmen Sandiego, only with Nick Crain. Where in the world is Nick Crain today at an undisclosed location? But Nick, when the dust settles here on Sunday, and it's full go playoffs, and the Thunder will be a popular pick to go to the finals. They'll be a popular pick to win the championship. They'll be almost a shoe-in to make the Western Conference Finals with the way that the bracket we think will set up with the Lakers on the other side. What's your biggest storylines that you're watching for this young team in the playoffs?
I think there's an aggregate storyline of Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, two guys that got extensions this offseason. Two guys that have had really good stretches at points in this season. We're talking about if this team goes to the finals, we're talking, you're playing, unless you're just sweeping your way there, you're playing 20 plus games, right? Aaron Wiggins has had 20 game stretches where he has looked awesome, like unbelievably awesome. Isaiah Joe has had 8 to 10 game stretches, which would be a couple of series where he has looked absolutely awesome. But conversely, there's been other times where both of those guys independently have struggled. And I don't know if we've seen both of them dominate at the same time. But that's what the playoffs all about. Like, you can have a 4-game stinker from beyond the arc in the regular season, and then it's kind of brushed over once you get back on your streak. A 4-game stinker, not that those guys are going to have that much influence because there's other scores, but a 4-game stinker puts a limelight on you in a playoff series. Conversely, one of those two going bananas, being a Gabe Vincent or a Caleb Martin or there's this long list of guys that have had crazy runs in the playoffs and then they get massive paydays right after. This could be a similar situation with those two. So one of the first storylines I'm thinking about entering the playoffs. And it could be a different guy. It could be Kaysen. But which one of those Thunder pieces that people certainly know about that watch the NBA, but maybe don't understand how good they are, which of those guys are going to step up and just be bananas in a playoff series?
Yeah, so we didn't go over this list before. We're going to surprise each other on the air, and my number one topic was in the same vein. Only I called it "Am I Right?" So all season long, I've been I've been talking about how the Thunder have this deep roster, ton of talent. They have a head coach who is very rare in the sense of he doesn't kind of go into it with, "Hey, these are the 8 guys I'm playing tonight. Come hell or high water, these are the guys who are going to play. That's it." Like he lets the game dictate how he orchestrates his rotation. And I think that this team is so talented and so deep that when you have a coach who's not stubborn, and we've seen coaches before who just, no matter how bad the 8 are, that's my 8. They're on the floor, they're going to play. With Mark being willing to play 10, 11, 12 guys in the playoffs even, and we saw it last year, we played 10, 11 guys in the playoffs. I think that this team is so talented and so deep that you're going to find in a 4, you need 4 wins in a 7-game series. In that stint, he's going to find 4 wins kind of from the couch cushions of like, okay, well, it's Wiggins misses first 2 threes, get in there, Isaiah Joe. Then he misses a 3. Okay, get in there, Casey, and then he hits 3 threes in a row. And then Jay Will comes in and hits 2 threes in a row. And like you mix and match and you find the guys who are hot on any given night. And my prediction has been that I don't think you're going to see a 7-game series where every single person is cold. And since the Thunder are going to try out every single person on their roster, and they're also talented and they're also capable, you're going to find the hot hand. And it's going to be different players every night. It's going to be like flipping through this Rolodex to find out who has it tonight. But
Kenrich, another one.
Yeah, Kenrich. By the end of the game in the fourth quarter, you're going to have 5 guys who are on their stuff that night and help you win a basketball game. So kind of that's the summarized version of your point of just who's going to step up. And on any given night, it could be so many different pieces. And to the Thunder's credit, they're going to let, on any given night, other guys step up. So I'll move on to the number 2 storyline. It's just J-Dub. J-Dub is going to be tasked with being that second scoring option. In the first 10 games of the season before Chet got hurt, you thought maybe Chet could be in that role. After the hip injury, it's so unfair to ask him to do that coming off of an injury that we've never seen before in the NBA, of this hip fracture injury. So with J-Dub, if he's the J-Dub that we've seen since Houston, then yeah, he can for sure be a number 2 option on a title team next to a guy who's having the season like Shai's having. But can he bottle up this week where he was really good against Houston, really good against the Suns, really good against the Lakers? Can he bottle up this week and do it for 3 months? And that's the biggest storyline. Either he will or he won't. I think that something has flipped for him. I think that he has seen it now, and he does understand now kind of what it takes to be in his role. So that's something to watch for, and that's one of the biggest things to watch for is how much of a jump can he take on the offensive end. Because defensively last year in that Dallas series, he was awesome. Offensively is where he was lackluster. How much better can you get on the offensive end from J-Dub to kind of improve what's been his career to this point of the postseason?
Yep. I think another one from me, and this is not the most fun one to talk about, and to be clear, it's not one that just the Thunder will deal with, but it's injuries. And like you mentioned, the playoff is a multi-month event, and we've not seen the Thunder team fully healthy for multiple months or even multiple weeks in a row. Really, it's always this and that, a lot of hips and a lot of it's been a lot of injuries. Every team will deal with that in the playoffs. I think it just comes down to which injuries. Is it Caruso for a couple games, Kenrich for a game, and Kaysen's shoulder flares back up? Or is it Chet for a series and a half? Like, that's going to be a big storyline. Last season, the Thunder was incredibly healthy all year long, and that wasn't a storyline going into the playoffs. This year, I think it has to be. Like, can this team, the depth helps because you can offset some of that, and they won tons of games with injuries this year. But in the playoffs, the margins are so razor thin that even a Caruso missing a game can make the difference in a series.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's kind of like you said, not just a Thunder thing. That's like an every team in the West thing specifically. I mean, like you've seen all these different teams deal with things like Denver with Jamal Murray. The Clippers are the Clippers. We know what they've been dealing with for the last decade. You have a Lakers team that is built on some older pieces who have been, I would say that they've been healthy this season for the most part. But then the Warriors have had older pieces, that have to survive now 3 months. And then the Rockets, we'll see. I mean, they kind of feel like a team like last year with the Thunder that have gotten some good injury luck, but like Tari Eason's been an issue at times. We'll see how Steven Adams holds up over the course of a playoffs because he's going to be in high demand for playoff minutes and very intense minutes. And then, I mean, the Grizzlies are just a walking injury boot. The Timberwolves, that's going to be a storyline for them too. And then we already know the Mavericks and Kings are just cooked. So in terms of the injury department, they're just cooked. Like Malik Monk's out. AD's around the corner from his next injury. They don't have Kawhi. They don't have Kyrie. It's over. But with Nick, injuries, number 2 option, role players. And then I'm going to say for my other storyline to watch is Shai. Because Shai, in a positive light of, like last year, he averaged 32 points against Dallas. He was excellent against Dallas. And we talk about this guy like he hasn't accomplished anything. He was excellent against Dallas. It was the other stuff that let Shai down. But if it all comes together for this team and he carries over that success, which he would have to for it all to come together, this is a legacy-defining playoff run for him in only really a positive way. Because to me, I feel good enough about Shai and what he does that you're never going to look at a series and say, could have used more from Shai there. Could have used more from Shai in that stint. Because you didn't do it against Dallas last year. He was excellent. Yeah. So I think that for Shai, if he pulls this off, he will be immediately vaulted into.
We're gonna have some conversations about Shai if they
great conversations
this year.
Yeah, and that's exciting. That's a storyline. I mean, and with those players, we've seen him now hit that 50-point threshold in the regular season a few times. Like, what if he just has a Shai game? Hey, we can't call off the dogs. It's the playoffs. So all these games that we've seen him get to 30 points in the third quarter, you're going to not only get the fourth quarter to play, but you're going to get into the fourth quarter earlier than usual, and you're going to play more minutes than usual. What if he rattles off like a 40-point game here, a 47-point game there, a 37-point game here on really great efficiency? Like, what if he just puts together a series like that to where it really shapes the narrative and conversation around Shai differently whenever people are forced to watch Shai and not look at a box score and see, oh, he had 11 free throws like Austin Reeves did, but who cares about Austin Reeves? Let's talk about Shai's free throws. Like whenever they're actually watching him. And I think it can be a moment for Shai because of his play style of everyone continues to say that they want early aughts basketball back and they want the mid-range back and they want guards to play the way that Kobe played and the way that all these other great players played and not just shoot threes. Hello.
Yep. He's here.
Shai's been doing this. You have a guy like that, and all you talk about with him is his free throws. So, I think that it can change that perception too, to where the storylines around Shai this postseason can be really fun, really fast. And then my last thing to watch for, Nick, what if we're just completely, and I'm saying we as in including myself here because of what we just did on this show, what if we're just completely overthinking this? What if the team who has the best record in the league, has broken every franchise record, should have the best point differential ever in NBA history, has won the most basketball games by double-digit points in the NBA? What if that team just rolls and they just go through the playoffs and we look back and we're like, why did we ever keep questioning this team?
Why do they even podcast about this? This is obvious.
Yeah, it's like all they've ever done is shut us up when it's like, geez, they lost Chet November 10th. What's that going to look like for the standings? Is it going to be a tight race? Are they going to even hold on to home court? And then it's like, no, they're just going to be the best team in the NBA. It's totally fine. What if they're just that good? And that storyline would be insane.
Yeah, you're spot on. We could be watching something pretty special in front of our eyes, and we won't realize it until it's over.
Yeah, because if that last storyline comes to roost and they just roll through the playoffs as they have the regular season and they'll lose a game here and there, but ultimately they pretty convincingly win the bracket. Then you add on to the fact of the anomaly conversation we had earlier in this pod of like, not only is this team an anomaly, but they just had their way with the NBA. The conversations get
just getting started.
really juicy really fast because this team is just getting started. But Nick, thank you for joining us. Hopefully, you'll be able to make some time to come back next week and talk about this playoff sequencing. Once we know the actual bracket, once we know kind of the opponents and stuff like that. But it's been a lot of fun catching up with you. Let them know where they can find your stuff
At Crain NBA. Next time we talk, the playoffs will be here, Rylan.
Crain NBA, NBA playoffs, Nick Crain. We're just getting started just like the Thunder are. So until next time, be good and be good to one another.